Ever look up at the night sky and wonder, what if? What if we're not alone? Well, today's deep dive is for all of us who are fascinated by the unexplained, the stuff that keeps us looking up at the stars.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about blurry photos and those shaky videos you see online.
Right.
We're diving into something much cooler, Cider. It's an app, and get this, you can download it right now on iOS.
I saw that, yeah.
Android's coming soon too, which tells you they're serious about this whole thing.
For sure.
But here's the thing. Cider isn't just another UFO app. It's trying to change how we actually investigate these sightings, using cutting-edge tech and everything.
It's about time, right?
Seriously. And we've got some pretty cool stuff to dig into today. We've got Cider's executive summary, which lays out their whole plan. But we also managed to get our hands on some inside info about their strategy.
Oh, juicy.
Right, we're talking about potential partnerships with some big names, the business side of things, the stuff most people never get to see.
And that's the stuff that really matters.
100%. Because having a cool idea is one thing, but making it work, making it last, that's the real challenge, right?
Especially with something as, let's face it, controversial as UFOs.
Okay, so let's talk about that elephant in the room for a second.
Yeah, no, good point.
A lot of people are, skeptical.
Rightfully so, too. I mean,
Exactly. But here's the thing about Cider, and this is what really sets them apart. They're not trying to, prove or disprove aliens.
Exactly, yeah.
At least not yet.
Not yet.
Their focus is on the data, which honestly is something we can all get behind.
And it's the perfect time for it, honestly. With everything that's been in the news lately about UAPs, people are more curious than ever.
100%?
But they're also more skeptical, which means they want real answers, not just more speculation.
Which is a good thing. It means we're finally getting serious about this whole thing.
Right.
So let's dig into that data angle a bit. What's the issue Cider is tackling here?
Well, their executive summary says it pretty bluntly. UFO reporting is, a bit of a mess.
A bit.
Oh, yeah, more than a bit. Inconsistent details, missing information, long wait times, you name it.
It's like we're relying on carrier pigeons and smoke signals to investigate something as potentially groundbreaking as, contact with another intelligence.
That's a great way to put it, actually. We're trying to study something extraordinary using incredibly ordinary methods.
That makes you wonder how much we're missing. Right?
Exactly. How many potential breakthroughs are we overlooking because the data's just not there?
Okay, so that's where Cider comes in.
Yeah.
They want to be the solution, right?
They do, and they've got a pretty interesting approach, too. They talk a lot about using real-time polling and metadata to weed out false reports.
Okay, break that down for me. How's that supposed to work?
Okay, so imagine you're looking at a photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
A photo of a big crowd at, a concert or something.
Okay, I'm with you.
On its own, it's just a bunch of faces, right?
Right.
Now, imagine being able to zoom in on any face in that crowd and instantly get their name, their background, the connection to the event.
Okay, now that's cool.
That's kind of what Cider wants to do with UFO sightings.
So instead of just, I saw a light in the sky, it's more like, I saw a light in the sky, and here's everything we know about that light based on other people who are seeing it too.
Exactly. That's the real-time polling aspect. The app's constantly checking if other users in the same area are reporting similar sightings at the same time.
It's a crowdsourcing for, the skies.
Exactly. And then there's the metadata, which is where it gets even more interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So think about the time of day, the exact location of the sighting, the weather conditions, all that stuff that could help us understand what we're looking at.
But couldn't someone just, fake that information?
Sure, anyone can manipulate data, but that's where Cider's design comes in. They're likely cross-referencing everything.
Cross-referencing? Like, with what?
Think about it. Let's say someone reports a UFO sighting during a thunderstorm, but Cider checks the weather data for that location and time, and boom, it turns out it was a clear night.
Busted.
Exactly. And it goes even further. Imagine them partnering with, organizations that have access to massive data sets, weather services, astronomical databases, that kind of thing.
Wait, are you saying they could automatically check if a UFO sighting coincides with, unusual weather patterns or maybe even a satellite passing overhead?
That's the potential here. They haven't confirmed any specific partnerships in their executive summary, but the way they emphasize the importance of metadata, it's clearly on their minds.
It's like having a built-in fact-checker for UFO sightings.
Exactly. It's about getting a clearer picture, not just jumping to conclusions.
So we've got this app, right? It's sleek, user-friendly, potentially revolutionary for UFO investigations, but can they actually make it work? I mean, is there even a market for this type of thing?
Well, their early App Store metrics are actually pretty telling. Even without any big marketing push, they're seeing a significantly higher conversion rate than the average app.
Wait, so people are actually downloading this thing?
They are, and more importantly, they're sticking around. Their retention rate is way higher than average, too.
Which tells us something, right? Like, people are hungry for this kind of information, and they're looking for a trustworthy source.
100%. People are tired of the hoaxes, the blurry photos, the sensationalized headlines. They want something more.
Something credible, something data-driven.
Exactly. And that's where Cider's real potential lies.
It really does feel like people are craving something different, something, I don't know, more substantial when it comes to UFOs.
Absolutely.
But let's talk business for a minute.
Okay.
Like, how many UFO apps can one person even have, you know? How does Cider plan to make all this, like, actually sustainable?
That's the question, isn't it? And their executive summary, they actually mention using a freemium model.
Okay, so, like, basic access is free, but they've got premium features you can pay for.
Right. Pretty standard stuff for apps these days. But what I found really interesting, what really caught my eye, was the emphasis they put on data and, get this, partnerships.
Okay, now we're talking. Partnerships, like with other companies. So they're not just building an app, they're building a network.
Exactly. Imagine, like, Cider integrating with, say, a weather app.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Right. And not just any weather app, but one that can provide, like, a hyper-local, real-time atmospheric data.
So you're saying, if I'm looking at a UFO through the Cider app,
Yeah.
it could tell me if there's, like, a weird weather anomaly happening at that exact moment.
Exactly. Or think about this. What if they partner with, like, a stargazing app?
Okay.
One that can instantly identify satellites and, celestial objects and all that.
So wait, hold on. Are you saying that if I'm looking at something in the sky, Cider could tell me if it's a satellite based on, like, real-time data from another app?
That's the idea. And get this, it gets even cooler.
Okay, you got my attention.
Imagine them partnering with companies that specialize in, like, image analysis.
Oh, wow.
Or AI. You could literally point your phone's camera at a potential UFO.
Right.
And the app, in real time, could analyze the footage, looking for patterns, tracking movements, even comparing it to a database of known objects.
But that's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right.
But it's also incredibly smart. It seems like they're really focusing on what they're good at, like the user experience, the data collection part.
Yeah.
And then they're partnering with experts in these other fields to, like, fill in the gaps.
Exactly. It's like a win-win for everyone involved. Cider gets access to, like, this cutting-edge technology, a ton of data they wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
And their partners, they get access to, a pretty passionate and engaged user base. I mean, we're talking about it.
Yeah, we are. But, and I hate to be, like, a downer here, but doesn't that also come with risks? Like, what's to stop some huge company from saying, hey, this is a great idea, we're going to do it ourselves, and just, like, cut Cider out completely?
You've hit on a really crucial point, and to their credit, they actually address that in their documents. They specifically talk about the complexities of intellectual property.
The legal stuff.
Right. And the potential for conflict, especially, with these tech giants like your Apples and your Samsungs of the world.
Yeah, those guys don't play around.
Exactly. So it's about navigating those waters carefully,
So how do they do that? How do they make sure they're not just, like, handing over the keys to the kingdom?
Well, that's where their whole strategic partnership thing comes into play. It's about finding the right partners, the ones who share their vision, the ones who understand that collaboration is key here.
So it's a balancing act.
Right.
Collaboration versus competition. But let's talk about the users for a sec, the people who are actually out there, looking up at the sky.
Right.
What kind of impact could all of this have on, like, the UFO community as a whole?
Well, for starters, it could change how we even think about UFO reporting.
Okay, how's it go?
Instead of relying on these, like, anecdotal accounts and grainy photos, we're talking about a standardized system,
Right.
a global network of people collecting data in a consistent, organized way.
So it's like the difference between having, like, a handful of scattered puzzle pieces and suddenly having, like, the entire edge of the puzzle put together. You can actually start to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that kind of data, if it's as, robust and reliable as Cider claims it's going to be, that could be incredibly valuable, not just for, enthusiasts like us, but for actual researchers, scientists who want to study UAP phenomena seriously.
So we're talking about moving beyond, like, just speculation and into the realm of actual scientific inquiry.
It's about time, don't you think?
Seriously. Okay, so we've talked about the app, the tech, the partnerships, all that good stuff. But what does this all actually mean for CIDR? Like, what's their end game here?
Their documents, they don't really lay out a specific end game, but reading between the lines, I think it's safe to say that their goal is to be the go-to platform.
The go-to platform
For everything.
Yeah.
UFO research, UAP investigations, you name it.
So not just identifying UFOs, but actually understanding them.
Exactly.
It's ambitious, to say the least.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
But it's also incredibly exciting. Like, imagine a future where, we're not just chasing shadows anymore. We're actually getting real answers.
It's the dream.
It is. But dreams don't always, become reality. What are some of the biggest challenges CIDR's going to face trying to, pull this off?
Well, first and foremost, they got to deliver.
On all those big promises.
Exactly. They've set the bar really high with, this whole data-driven approach, the partnerships. They got to execute that flawlessly if they want to build real trust.
Which is, crucial in this field, right?
Oh, absolutely. The UFO community, let's face it, we've been burned before.
Many times.
So CIDR has to be, squeaky clean, transparent about their methods, their data, their partnerships.
Oh, shady stuff.
Exactly. And they have to keep their users in the loop every step of the way, because if people start to feel like they're being left out or worse, misled, that trust evaporates pretty quickly.
And then there's the whole, tech side of things.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other beast. They're walking a tightrope, really. Trying to find that balance between collaborating with these big companies and at the same time protecting their own stuff, their intellectual property.
Yeah. Making sure they don't get, steamrolled.
Exactly. It's a delicate dance. And one misstep could, mess everything up.
And then there's, the users themselves. Because you could have the best app in the world, the most amazing partners, but if people aren't actually using it...
It's all for nothing.
Exactly. And not just using it, but using it, correctly.
Right. Responsibly. Because imagine thousands of reports flooding in every time, a weather balloon goes up or something.
Or a flock of geese.
Exactly. CIDR's got to find a way to, educate its users to help them separate the real deal from the everyday stuff.
It's about separating the signal from the noise. Which, honestly, is what CIDR is trying to do with the data in the first place, isn't it?
It all comes back to the data. It always does.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the app, the tech, the partnerships, the potential pitfalls. So what's the final verdict? What do we think about CIDR?
Honestly, it's still early days. They have a ton of potential, no doubt about that. They've got a solid strategy, and they're clearly tapping into something real, a desire for a more scientific approach to all of this.
But there's always a but.
But success is never guaranteed, not in this field. They have to execute, they have to navigate some, let's face it, pretty treacherous waters, and they have to keep their users engaged. If they can do all that, then yeah, they might just live up to the hype.
And that's a big if. But hey, that's what makes this whole thing so exciting, right?
That's what keeps us watching the skies.
Exactly. It's a fascinating story, and it's one that we'll definitely be following closely. But we also want to hear from you, our listeners. What do you think about all of this? If you were calling the shots at CIDR, what kind of partnership would you go after? What kind of data or tech do you think would be the most valuable in finally cracking the code of UAPs? Let us know, and until next time, keep looking up.